Right, I'm going to show you two ways of colour coding for the day. I'm going to create a day like I normally would, and I'm actually going to use yesterday's clock because it was quite a lot of hours, but it wasn't too crazy. And then I'm going to show you how I would have done one back in the days when I was at college for a regular day shift, which obviously, you know, that is a lot more sensible in terms of actually going to bed at some point. So this is my colour coding key, work and personal. So work yellow is VIP, personal yellow is appointments. Work yellow is classes, personal yellow, orange is art. Sorry, orange, not yellow, and so on. I'll put a copy of this on the blog post for you if you want to refer back to it or whatever. So the first thing I do when I get up is highlight the time I woke up, and I woke up at 6 a.m. So that's 6 a.m. there. And I always put a dot to indicate getting up and going to bed. So my getting up is always inside and my going to bed is always on the outside. If I have a nap in the meantime, I'll mark it on. If I wake up that early, normally I don't get up straight away. I wait until about 9 o'clock, which I did. I actually laid in bed and read for 3 hours. So I coloured that in. These are very small squares. So I just put that in there. I wouldn't multitask that early in the morning anyway. So I don't need to have more than one. I also have, then I got up and had a shower, which I can't do anything else at that time, so I would colour the whole thing in. Now this brings me back to, a lot of people ask why the Chronodex has small, medium, large section, small, medium, large section, small, medium, large section. I read through Scription and a few posts by Patrick, and from what I can gather, the logic behind it is that most people's days are sort of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 8 till 5 or something like that. 9 a.m, you get into work, you're checking your email, you're making a coffee, you're catching up with people for the day, you're checking your appointments, so you're kind of building up to the day. So the chances of having anything big going on at that time are fairly minimal. 10 o'clock is usually when people start scheduling meetings, or you have appointments, or you have to leave to go somewhere. And then by 11 o'clock, you're thinking, oh, it's lunch in an hour. I better get cracking on this. I need to get it done this morning. So this is when you're at your desk, you're doing phone calls, you're answering emails, you're getting some work done, you're scheduling appointments, all that kind of thing. This is your critical hour. You know, you've already wasted an hour this morning getting wound up towards doing some work, then you've had to go and do a meeting for an hour. So this is your crunch time. This is when you start really getting some work in. 12 till 1 is normally lunch for most people. Obviously not for everybody, but for most people. 12, 1, 2 is sort of the time that you go for lunch. Afternoon meetings, if they're going to be scheduled, they're usually scheduled sort of 1 or 2 o'clock-ish. And by about 2 o'clock, you know, you're sitting there thinking, oh, crikey, it's nearly 3 o'clock. I better get cracking on this. I need to get a move on. Or 3 o'clock is, again, when people tend to schedule afternoon meetings that are going to go on right the way through. 3 p.m. is normally break time. You know, you go and get yourself a coffee for the time for, you know, seeing yourself into the rest of the afternoon. And then again, you've got an hour of sorting out what you're going to do, finishing off things from the morning, small tasks. Then you've got a last push before you go home. Sort of 5, 6 o'clock-ish. So it kind of, each section builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up. Again, in the evening, you've got an hour where you're perhaps getting home, or you might be commuting and you might be working at the same time. And then you've got an hour of, you know, having dinner or family time or something like that. Perhaps you're getting ready and then you go out. Or perhaps you're, you know, spending an hour just sitting reading the paper or doing some personal stuff, and then you spend a couple of hours with the kids before they go to bed, and then you sit and watch a movie with your other half. You know, everything builds up to those major times. It's not about this section is more important than this section. And that's what the concentric rings are for, so that you can multitask and you can build up layers. Instead of thinking of it as spikes where it's a graph and this is not a lot, this is a bit more, and this is really important. Think of it in layers where you're kind of spreading out as if you're looking down on a pyramid. So looking down on a pyramid, you would have your top piece, and then you would have another ring, and then you would have another ring, and then you would have another ring. It's not about any one ring being more important. It's simply from a visual point of view. Here's one layer, here's the next layer, here's the next one, here's the next one. And that's how this works. As far as I understand it, I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong with that, but you know, from what I read and the way Patrick seemed to be using it and the way he explained it when I asked him about it, that seems to be how it works in rings. So, for me, this point here where I got up and had a shower, that's a half-hour block where I could not be possibly doing anything else. I couldn't be doing anything with the dogs, I couldn't be rendering videos because I'd just got up, I obviously couldn't be filming, goodness me. You know, I can't be doing anything, I can't be reading, nothing, because I was in the shower. There's not a lot you can do when you're in the shower other than sing. And I don't do that very well either. So that is that block. Then I had until 10:30 a block of personal time. And I'm spending a little more time colouring this in properly than I normally would because I want it to be clear for you on camera. And in with my personal time, I was also doing something orange. So when it's personal time and it's orange, what was I doing? Art. And this would have just been art for me, not art for, I wouldn't have been working on an art piece for somebody. I was probably sketching or doodling or, you know, just doing my morning practice. That tends to be what I do, you know, straight after a shower, get dressed, come downstairs and have a coffee, and I sit and draw and warm up for the day. That makes it sound like I've got some kind of routine. Of course I don't have a routine, but, you know, the idea is there. I don't have my blue pen. Where's my blue pen? Here it is. So, then I took the dogs out, and the dogs, when I've got the dogs, they have my full attention. I can't run errands. You know, I talked about this in yesterday's video. I can't run errands. I can't be doing anything. It's unfair of them to be taking them out and be on the phone or something like that. So the dogs, it's their time. So again, that would be a big block for me where I can't do anything else. And blue is, in the context of personal, household and dogs, and in the context of work, it is admin. If it's just a big chunk of blue, then I normally just put my heart indicator. Again, I can't remember where I got that from. I think it was Nadine, the Hawaiian girl. I think when she did hers, she used her heart for family time. And I'm sorry if it wasn't her and I missed you. If it was you, put your name down below, and I am terribly sorry. But I think that's where I got it. And it's just a quicker way of writing, took the dogs for a walk. I know what it means. That's good enough for me. Then I have 2 hours where I was doing blue stuff when I came home. Blue stuff, again, is housework or dogs. Well, it probably wasn't dogs because... Well, it wasn't dogs because I've just taken the dogs out. So this is housework. And because it's housework, I don't need to write down what it was. I know it's housework. I don't really care. If it's something that I only do infrequently, like mopping the floors, I sort of do once a week or something like that, then I will write down. Or if I've concentrated on one particular room... Monday, let me have a look. Oh, actually, I'd only worked in the lounge on Monday, so I would just put lounge like that, just so that I know that particular day I was in the lounge. I only did the lounge. I did 2 hours, but I only did the lounge. So at some point during the week, I'm going to have to do something else in the house. Then I had 2 hours of personal time from 1 until 3. And I can tell you, having been up since 6 a.m. and taken the dogs out and done some housework, that's probably me having lunch. Again, not something I need to write down. I don't meal track or anything like that. I eat when I'm hungry, I sleep when I'm tired. End of. Okay, then I did some filming. Now when I'm filming, I cannot do anything else. Filming is usually for YouTube or classes, so I tend to put it in pink, whether it's classes or not. And like I said, I can't do anything else when I'm doing that, so I would fill in the entire block. And that took me right the way through till 6 o'clock, so I'm actually going to use my highlighter for that because it's easier to colour in a big block. So all of this is pink. This is YouTube stuff. Then I have an orange block on its own, which is work. Usually class stuff, not always, but usually. Sometimes it's blogs or, you know, I'm just checking up on stuff, making sure the classes are running smoothly, answering questions, that sort of thing. And I would normally be importing videos during that time. Then I had another section here where I was doing critiques. Now, if I'm doing critiques, that's for students, that gets my full attention. So that is a full block like this. And you can see, because we've gone over the 12 hours now, we've got 6 till 9 in here. Then we went out and we're going around this ring, so we're starting to overlap. And then until 11 o'clock, sorry, 10:30, I was working just on class stuff and admin. So I can do up to 9 o'clock. That's easy. That's that bit there. Like so. And that little block there was admin things. I was probably, having just done a whole section on critiques, I was probably doing my student logs. I do keep a record of what critiques I've given to students and when, so that I know you know, who's regularly putting in critiques and who isn't, so I can keep track of students who are doing extra work for the classes. Now technically I've filled up my Chronodex. Around here, let me bring it close to the camera so you can see, there are further markings from 9 o'clock around here through to 6 o'clock. Which is great if you, focus. It's great if you only have to, I don't know, maybe you go out to a club and you're out till 2 or something like that. Or you worked a late shift and you finished at 9 and you travelled home and then you watched TV or something. That works great for you. However, I worked, as I just said, until 10:30. So I have to now, whoops, wrong colour. I have to now come outside into the next step. So 6 till 9, come out, go round, till 9, come out, go round. So this is me coming out here and working till 10:30 in there. And this is where it gets complicated for me, because earlier in the day I had done some filming, and this work was editing videos, which I mark in pink. So I was working and I was editing videos, so that means I've now got to draw another box up here to show that for that time I was also editing videos. And I hope you can see there, that is why it doesn't work for me. Because if I then say I was editing and exporting videos or importing videos, and I could be doing something else as well, then that would be a real problem. I couldn't put yet another one on the outside. That's getting ridiculous. Anyway, then I took the doggies out. So that's another block where I couldn't be doing anything else. Now, if all of this was one single block, then I would only put this in as a single block. But because this is a double block now, I'm putting it in as a double block because, like here, it indicates that the whole thing is taken up, therefore it's dogs. So that's our evening WALK. Then I had an hour of personal time, which was probably having something to eat. Like I said, I don't keep regular hours, so don't be surprised that I'm eating at 11 o'clock at night. Then I did 2 more hours of work till 2 AM. And 1 hour of it was rendering videos. So again, I've got a single one, which is just work. I was just doing something for work. Probably class stuff. And then I've got another one here, which was half an hour in there. That would have been me having recorded my videos and edited my videos. I'm now working and watching my videos render, because they don't like being left alone to render. They start to get errors. Very high maintenance. Then, yes, I'm aware it's 2 AM and we're still going. Then I've got 2 hours of personal time in here. And then for some strange reason, at 4 a.m. I decided it was a good time to move the furniture around in the lounge. It's not a big job, but I decided it needed to be done then. So I spent half an hour moving furniture about. So blue, half an hour in there. And then I had until 6 a.m. I had purple time. So this is personal time. And I actually went to bed, surprisingly, at 6, so I'd put a dot in there to indicate that I went to bed then. So I now know that that purple personal time I was probably reading or something like that. So you can see that a typical day for me is a full 24 hours. Which is why the Chronodex gets confusing for me after a while, because it's hard to keep going outside for, you know, at least 9 hours of the day. Like I said before, I could possibly turn it around. If you look here, it actually starts at this point here. I could perhaps turn it around so it was that way and start using this section here, but then that means up until 3 o'clock I can't multitask. And, you know, obviously if you look at this, I've got several multitasking things in there, or things that take up a big block of time. So I don't think that would work. I did try it and I got confused because there were numbers on there, and I was following the numbers, and then I'd realised that it was 3 p.m. was over here, and well, it just got confusing. So that's how I do it at the moment. And like I say, it's difficult because I don't work to a strict timetable or a regular timetable. Now, back in the days when I used to work at college, it was nice and easy. Because I used to start work at 8, so I would start work here, and I never had any classes scheduled before 9 o'clock. And then I would be at work right the way through until, depending on what time my class is finished, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So all of this was work time. And then once I finished work for the day, the rest of it was all personal time. Because I never went back to work. If I had to stay till, if I had a class at say 7 o'clock, I would just stay, or I'd go in late and I'd stay, and I'd go in at 12 and I'd stay till 7 or 8 o'clock depending on what time I finished. But, you know, on a normal day where I started at 8 and finished at 4, this would all be personal time. So straight away my day is simplified merely by the fact that my days split up into a defined chunk. Work, personal. Then I can, that's Scooby-Doo groaning in the background, sorry about that. Then I can put in appointments for what I've got going on during the day. So let's say I was teaching 11 till 12. Well, if I'm teaching, I couldn't do anything else. So that would be a big block. Oh, I've written it in 10 till 12. Never mind. Let's say 10 till 12. Makes no difference. That's a big block where I couldn't be doing anything else, so I would colour in all of that in orange. And I might put in Year 2 Computer Science Room 8. Then let's say I've got a meeting scheduled for 1 o'clock for half an hour. So obviously I can't be doing anything else while I'm in a meeting. So meet with John in conference room. So then that leaves me between 12 and 1 to have lunch. So I might indicate it like that, for instance, to show that it's not really a block of time, I'm just having lunch. Then let's say I'm teaching in the afternoon from 3 till 4. So I would put that in there, like so. And obviously if I was teaching, I would know that in advance, so I would have already put that in. So let's say that is Year 1, Room 7. So I would already have that booked in as an appointment. I would already have this booked in as an appointment, and I would have this booked in as an appointment. So then I can say, okay, well, between that meeting and that meeting, I'm going to block out that time because I really need to get some student records done. So do student records. And then let's say my class overran and then I got held up at work. So I might put in some time here. I don't know. Sarah Jones. Maybe a student stopped me after class and wanted to talk to me. So I would put that in. Even it's personal time because it's over my work time. And I've put in who the student was so I know who it was that was stopping me. And then let's say in the evening at 7:30 I've arranged to meet friends for drinks, so I wouldn't book anything else at the same time. So let's say that meet J and D at Frankie's, for instance. And then, you know, perhaps I've gone out, la la la, and I go to bed and I say, right, I'll go to bed at, I've gone to bed at 11:30. I would put that there. And then obviously I started work at 8, I would have got up earlier. I would normally have got up around there. So that would make that personal time, because that would be driving to work, getting ready for work, having a shower, getting up, getting dressed, having breakfast, picking up a coffee on the way in, that kind of stuff. Now, of course, you could do it without blocking in work and personal. You could simply block in, I've got a class here, I've got a class here, I'm going to do some admin here, I'm going out for drinks here, and you could completely eliminate the need for this inside ring if you wanted to. I personally like to see my personal versus work time. I find it much easier to deal with. But if you imagine without that ring, it's a little bit more sparse, and the ones that you see where it's literally just a couple of spikes of colour tend to have done that. They know that they work 9 to 5 or they work 9 to 6 or whatever, so they don't need to put it in. I put it in because I used to work shifts. Depending on what time my first class was, I would go in early or I would go in late. We call it flexi time here. I don't know what you call it elsewhere in the world, but flexi time is basically you're contracted to a certain number of hours a week, but it doesn't really matter when you do those hours as long as you do them. So that's how I would have used a Chronodex back when I was at college, and this is how I use a Chronodex now, and you can see there's a big difference. It just doesn't work for the amount of hours and the way I work now. Whereas if you've got a set schedule, it does work really well. And if you've got rigid hours when you work and you always work 9 to 5 most of the time, you don't even need to put in what's work and what's personal time. You can just put in your appointments during the day for what you've got to do. So I hope that helps some of you understand Chronodex a little bit better. Like I say, I'm not an expert on it. It's taken me a very long time to understand it and a couple of very lengthy conversations with Patrick to see how it could work and why it would work or why it doesn't work for me. I kind of wish it did work because I actually really like this. I know a lot of people don't like the spikiness, but I do. I like to visually see, oh, there's something that I couldn't do anything else, and there I was multitasking, you know. To me, that makes a lot of sense. I may carry on playing with it a little bit, see if I can tweak it in some way. I have had an idea of perhaps... actually, I've put it on tomorrow's. For tomorrow's, what I thought I might do is split each block in half. So I've got 12 till 12 and 12 till 12. That makes these sticky out bits a little bit redundant, but in all honesty they're redundant for me anyway because I don't have that start work at 9, build up to lunch, come back after lunch, build up to home time, relax after work, get ready to go out. You know, I don't have that in my day. I'm either working or I'm not. So I'm going to try that and see if it's any better or any worse or whatever. And I'm also going to try turning it round again and having it this way round so that I've got 6 a.m. there and I can do 6 a.m. till 3. Perhaps that will work because quite often I don't work in that time. I will be doing stuff like housework or personal time or something like that. I don't know. It makes me a little uncomfortable to be doing that, but perhaps a way round it is to keep my personal time just logging, you know, when I'm doing personal stuff and when I'm doing household stuff and dog stuff, and then for my work using the Chronodex here to split it up, because no matter how much time I'm awake for, I don't normally go over 12 hours of work. And if I do, then I've done a few hours in the morning or afternoon evening, and then I've had 4 or 5 hours off and then I've started work again. So technically that could go on the next day. That might work, that might not. I'm going to play about with it and see what happens. I had up to this point decided that's it, I'm going to go with my own version, but you know, having done this exercise now, I'm even more determined to try and make the Chronodex work in some way for me, because I really do like it, I have to say. I wish I could get it to work for me. Yes, it's a bit of a conundrum. Because even just looking at this, I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute. If it was turned around the other way, 3 till 6 I was filming. So that would make this on here, that would make that 3 till 6 there. So maybe that would work, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. I'm going to have a little more of a play with it. We're intending to do another batch of videos on the 28th of August, because we're playing with these right the way through the month, I want to tweak my version of the clock a little bit more, trying to make it look a little bit more like the Chronodex, but not a copy of the Chronodex. It's quite difficult to make it look like something without looking like something, as you can imagine. But at the same time, I'd really like to get this to work, because I do love it. So if you've got any questions, do post below. I'm more than happy to try and answer questions. Like I say, I am not an expert on Chronodex. It's taken me a long time to get to this. A lot of conversations with Patrick, a lot of sifting through scription, and even conversations he's had with other people on his Instagram where they've been talking about how they use the Chronodex, and I've been going back through and looking at it and coming up with different ideas, and oh, I never thought of that. You know, it's taken a lot of research to get to this point, but I'm determined, if it can work for me, to make it work for me. So we'll see. So that's the end of my Chronodex videos for this segment. I will be back once I've tweaked my clock that I've done myself. I will come back and show you a bit more on that, and like I say, on the 28th I will come back and show you where I've got to with the Chronodex. And in the meantime, if you want to go back over this and review it, and you know, stop the video and look back on things and see how they work, there's the one that is work stuff, and there's the one that is the way I work now, and the colour code that goes with it.